Hello, this will be a look at an ongoing play-by-email game of Warplan. We're on turn 55 in this game. I'm playing the Axis against an email opponent. I showed you in another video the game where I'm allies. He successfully managed Sea Lion. In this game, I basically went for a kitchen sink Barbarossa, meaning that I launched everything at Russia. Before that, I was able to conquer um, France, obviously, in the summer or late summer, I think, of 40. The French campaign wasn't too costly. It was a little bit bloody, but not crazy. Um, I also was able to conquer Yugoslavia by attacking it around the same time I attacked France, and then after that, I conquered Greece. So I hold Greece, Yugoslavia. I aligned obviously all the Axis miners. And in North Africa, I was basically passive. I didn't send an Africa Corps. So what's happened in North Africa is that the British and Canadians just took Tripoli a few turns ago, maybe 2 or 3 turns ago, pushed the remaining there were 3 Italian corps defending Tripoli area in these hills and in Tripoli, pushed them into the desert where they eventually killed them. So it's now September 26th, 1941. We're on turn 55 and North Africa has been knocked out. So I think that the next step for the Allies will be to go into Vichy, North Africa, which is here. So I've prepared an attack on Vichy, France, to collapse it if that happens, or when I feel like the Allies are threatening to invade Vichy, France. Vichy, France doesn't start with any garrisons in their southern ports. This is an 8-level port, and this is a 3-level port, Toulon and Marseille. So it's very dangerous for the Axis to allow them to invade here, because then they would be basically ashore with large ports in Europe. So I've got a couple of Bulgarian corps ready to run into Toulouse, divisions into Toulouse, a German division in Marseille, a Hungarian corps to Lyon, and then a Panzer Corps and an infantry corps ready to take Vichy itself. So I think I can knock out Vichy in 1 turn, no problem. Um, I've got basically an Italian garrison along the coast. I've garrisoned all ports in France, as well as in the Low Countries. And then I've got a few German units and Hungarian units defending Denmark and northern Germany. I've left Bremerhaven open, which I need to fill it. There's an invadable hex here, I believe. Let me see if there is. Plains, plains, beach. Yep, there's a beach hex right here. So I think potentially they could invade here, but I don't know if they could walk into Bremerhaven because there's no land in this hex side. So I think probably they couldn't. That's why I don't have a garrison, but maybe I need to fill it just to be safe. The Germans have too many headquarters to start with, so I've got an extra headquarters defending this. And Copenhagen cannot be invaded because there are mines north of Copenhagen. So that's basically the situation outside of Russia. The British are huge because they haven't been able to really do much against them, although I've raided their convoy lines a little bit. They have a large naval presence that's chasing my raiders. So for example, I've got Deutschland cruiser here, which has already taken a lot of damage. You can see it's at 2 health out of 5. So they just were able to, it looks like, find it in the rain and damage it. So it's got to make a run back to port, which I'll try now. And it made it. And then I've got one U-boat left. They sunk the other U-boats, and so it's raiding the North Atlantic convoy line. I thought that I'd sent out another cruiser, but I must have just sent out one. I've got the rest of the Kriegsmarine here in the Baltic that's surviving. I think I might have lost the ship already to the Royal Navy while it was raiding. So I've got a battleship, a battle cruiser, a dreadnought, an old dreadnought, and a cruiser here to hit the Soviet Navy if it sallies to raid my convoy lines in the Baltic. So that's what this is doing. This part of the Kriegsmarine, which is the bulk of the Kriegsmarine. Over here in Russia, since it's September, I'm expecting bad weather soon. I'm basically close to surrounding Leningrad. The Soviets are still fighting in this area, but it looks like I'll be able to surround it and then try to start some assaults against Leningrad. I've moved a fighter and 3 Stuka wings into the area to try to bomb it. I'd like to assault it before winter, but I know I may not be able to. So Leningrad itself is a supply source in this game, so basically it cannot be starved out. Um, I'll zoom in a little here to look at what's going on. I've got Novgorod. I've thought about making a push from the north on the Moscow area into Kalinin along this rail line. So I've left one armor corps, one panzer corps, and a couple of infantry corps up here. And I'll decide this turn whether to push forward here along this rail line or possibly start moving these units out and just hold here at Novgorod. There's really not much to be gained until I get to the Kalinin Moscow area. There are these cities back here, Ivanov and Yaroslavl, but I am not sure I can push that far before winter hits. Soviets have an extra army here near Leningrad. They have 2 armies, so I think their plan is that if one army becomes attrited, the other army will get pushed out. And then around Smolensk and Vitebsk, I am trying to make an encirclement. This game has basically been a series of German encirclements during Barbarossa. So I had a large encirclement here, just east of the Baltic states, very large encirclement. And then I have a small encirclement here with a Met Corps. I really haven't done much in this area, that's why the progress has been slow. But I've just reinforced this area to start this breakthrough to Rizev and to try to encircle these forces at Veliki Luki. There is no rail line running to Veliki Luki, you can see that. The only way they can get supply now is overland. So basically supply is, I think, 9 at the railhead here, or let's say here, and then it would be 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So these guys would be at very low supply, still in supply, but very low supply. So by pushing into Rizev, and if I continue to push here, I could potentially pocket this whole group, and that may be what I try this turn. I've also got Smolensk ready for an assault. I think I'll probably take it. If we look at it, Smolensk has 1 population point, so I'll probably try to take that away. I'd like to get the Soviets into population trouble because they've taken a ton of losses. Let's take a look at their losses. At least I think they have. So if we look at the losses here, Germany's got 352 land losses, 110 air losses. If we compare that to my other play-by-email game, which is 5 turns ahead of this one, in other words, it's 5 turns farther along, it's already in November of 41. In that game, the Germans have taken, I believe, around 600 losses, if I remember correctly. So they've taken more losses, and the Soviets have only taken about 400 losses in that game, my Soviets. So you can see this, the encirclements have caused a lot of losses on the Soviets, about 3 times as many losses in this game as I've taken in my game. So I feel like they'll probably be in population trouble at some point. Let's see. Air losses have been low for Germany, I would say. The active allies have lost a lot more air than Germany has, which is almost double, which is the reverse of, or different than my other play-by-email game where I'm allies, where the German air losses are, I think, higher than the active allied countries. So this is where casualties stand right now. You can see the British have lost almost nothing, so they must be extremely strong. U.S. has not entered the war yet. Okay, so back to the situation here. I've got a small encirclement here of a mech corps. I also had some large encirclements in the south. I had an encirclement around Gomel. There was a bunch of Germans that were, Soviet Red Army troops that were cut off here. And then I had a bunch of encirclements here. I had an encirclement along the Dnieper River line south of Kiev. I had another one near, I believe, near Dnipropetrovsk. I've also managed to push into Crimea and take Sevastopol. And I pushed some Italian armor, the only Italian unit, one of the few Italian units in Russia. I think the only other Italian unit is on garrison duty here. This unit was able to push across the Straits of Kerch and take Novorossiysk. So I am also taking Rostov, so I've kind of turned the corner into the oil field area. But I saw an opening to take Stalingrad, so I pushed ahead quickly to take Stalingrad because it wasn't garrisoned. I had some panzers here at Rostov after I took it, and Stalingrad wasn't open, so I quickly pushed over to take it. And you can see I'm threatening another encirclement here. The only thing I think that would stop this at this point is weather. So this turn, I don't have any panzers close other than this one and this one. So I have two panzers available. This one's very weak. It's at 50% effectiveness. It's down 5 points. So I'd rather rest it. But I might try to close this pocket this turn if I'm able to. I've also got a panzer in the north. So basically 2 effective panzer corps are available to try to close this pocket, although this one's far away from the pocket, so it really can't do much. So I'll try to close this before the weather gets bad. If I can close this pocket, as you can see, there's really just not much left for the Soviets in the south. And if I can close this pocket, there's just not much left of the Red Army. So it looks like I'm on the verge of some very heavy blows to the Soviets in 41. And I think that should make the 42 campaign a rollover, but I have never played this far in the game, so I'm not sure. It feels like the Germans are on the edge of some real hammer blows here, but and they've already really hit the Soviets hard. So that's where we are in this game. The sort of wild card is, what will the Western Allies do? Because they're very strong. As soon as the Americans come in, they have so many options. Italy's garrisoned fully in the south, so I've got every single port garrisoned up to just north of Toronto. But I don't have the northern ports garrisoned, and the reason is that the invasion rules in this game only allow you to invade 24 hexes from where a transported unit is. So for example, the Allies could invade with the unit in Malta 24 hexes away, which would essentially give them a bridgehead up here. And I'd like to garrison these ports, but I will, but it's only one unit, and I'm so close to finishing the fall campaign in the Soviet Union that I don't want to distract from that right now. I do have some reserve forces. If they tried to invade up there, I could pull out, for example, these panzers, and I've got some units arriving. You can see I have 2 infantry corps coming in this turn, another one next turn, another one in November, and then I've got 3 fighters basically arriving because I went really light on fighters. I only had the original 4 fighters when I invaded Russia, and so that's made it tough to keep air coverage from my bombers, escort coverage from my bombers in Russia. But I've built 1 or 2 more fighters. They're now on the front line. One is in Russia, and I've put the other in Sicily. So I've got a couple more upgraded new fighters. This is a 1941 escort fighter, so it has a long range. It's defending the Med. And potentially I've got planes that are set to interdict. You can see they're on naval bombing. If the Allies do try to sail up here to invade, I've got 3 Italian, or I guess 2 Italian bombers that could try to interdict their transports. Really 1. This is a short-ranged bomber, just defending the Adriatic. So that's where this game stands. I hope you enjoyed the update. I may update it again in a few turns, or maybe in the summer of 42, if there's any interest in this video. Thank you.